You know, sometimes the biggest revolutions don't start with a bang, but with the quiet turn of a page. Today, we're diving into the story of a book. But this is way more than just paper and ink. It's a scientific saga that was 100 years in the making.
So what you're looking at here is the 2017 edition of the Indian Food Composition Tables. And yeah, it might look like a super dense scientific textbook, but it's actually the grand finale of this massive national effort, all to answer one question that affects every single one of us.
Yep, that's it. That's the big question. From the dal on our plate to the spices in our curry, what's actually in there? What nutrients, what compounds, what hidden little elements are we putting into our bodies every single day? Answering that is like the fundamental first step to understanding the health of an entire nation.
To really get why this 2017 book is such a game changer, we've got to take a trip back in time. See, the story of India's food tables is really the story of its public health challenges. Each edition was like a new weapon, designed for a new fight.
The whole story kicks off way back in 1937 with tables made to fight these really devastating diseases like beriberi. Fast forward to 1951, and the focus shifted to pellagra, so they added data on niacin. Then, 1963 saw this huge leap, data on 856 different foods, even amino acids to tackle protein malnutrition. And by 1989, as chronic diseases became the new enemy, the tables evolved again to include dietary fiber. You see the pattern? Each version was a direct response to the health crisis of its day.
This chart right here, it tells such a cool story. You see that massive peak in 1963? That was an all-out blitz to catalog as many foods as humanly possible. But then, look what happens. It drops. Now, you might think that's a step back, but nope. It was actually a really smart strategic pivot. Scientists realized that pinpoint accuracy was way more important than just sheer numbers. So they shifted focus to making sure every single piece of data was absolutely rock solid.
But by the time we hit the 21st century, it was crystal clear that the old books, as brilliant as they were for their time, just weren't cutting it anymore. The world had changed, our food had changed, and the health problems we were facing, they had changed completely. A simple update wasn't going to work. India needed a total, from-the-ground-up reboot.
And this, right here, this contrast explains everything. The old battles were against diseases of deficiency, not having enough vitamin B1 or not enough iron. But today, the fight is totally different. We're facing diseases of excess, diabetes, hypertension, obesity. To even begin to understand the link between our modern diets and these chronic illnesses, we needed a whole new kind of data.
I mean, the previous data just had too many problems. The methods they used to analyze the food were decades old, the way they collected samples was kind of fuzzy, which means the data wasn't truly representative of a country as incredibly diverse as India. And on top of all that, our food supply was changing so fast, and scientists were discovering all these new compounds in food that are super important for health, compounds the old tables never even looked for.
So the stage was set for one of the most ambitious nutritional science projects in the country's history, the creation of a completely new food database, totally from scratch, a modern food Bible, if you will.
This one sentence, right from the book's preface, just says it all. This wasn't a revision, it was a revolution. No old data was carried over. Every single number in this book comes from brand new, original analysis of food that was sampled from every corner of the nation. It was a total clean slate.
And the process itself was just monumental. First, they sifted through national surveys to pinpoint the 528 most commonly eaten foods. Then, step 2, they created this nationwide sampling plan, collecting these foods from 6 different regions to capture all that diversity. Third, they took those samples and analyzed them for over 150 different components using the best modern tech available. And finally, they built the entire database from the ground up.
This chart really shows you the insane jump in technology we're talking about. The scientists went from these older, less precise methods to absolute state-of-the-art techniques. And this meant they could not only get more accurate numbers for things we already knew about, but they could analyze a whole new universe of compounds, things like polyphenols and organic acids that we now know play a huge role in chronic disease. They were seeing our food in more detail than ever before.
And just get a load of this table of contents. It's not just protein, fat, and carbs anymore. We're talking exhaustive data on specific fatty acid profiles, amino acid profiles, and entire sections on things that were barely on the radar a few decades ago, like phytosterols and oligosaccharides. This is basically nutritional data in high definition.
So, okay,
A massive scientific effort, incredible detail. But what does it all mean for you and me? Why does having all this data actually matter in the real world?
Well, this book is basically the invisible bedrock of public health. Its data is what guides national health policy. Researchers use it to finally connect the dots between diet and disease. It's the basis for setting the standards for school meal programs. It gives doctors and dietitians the power to give truly accurate advice. And it's the foundation for those nutritional labels you see on the food you buy every day.
To boil it all down, this book is the essential tool we have for drawing a clear, undeniable line between what India eats and how healthy India is. It provides the hard evidence needed to make smart, science-backed decisions that can affect millions and millions of people.
So that century-long scientific quest, it's done. For the first time ever, India has a truly modern, comprehensive map of its food landscape. The data is finally here.